So yeah, so I'm talking about, I think, the path factors leading up to samasati, right mindfulness. So, you know, with virtue, with wisdom, with a sense of knowing how to make the right effort, you know, to bring up the wholesome, to let go of the unwholesome, we can then actually approach meditation, you know, in a sustainable way. So we, you know, we can, you know, people are often interested in the samasati aspect of the Eightfold Path, primarily, you know. So I just want to, as I said for myself, I just want to meditate. I just want to go on retreats. And that's my Buddhism, you know, go on retreats and purify to some extent, and maybe hopefully have a daily practice and do retreats whenever I can. And that's really totally wonderful, of course. But oftentimes it can be quite difficult to make progress in that way if we're not following and applying and aware of the other path factors, if we're not bringing them in. And I learned this myself. I mean, I was a typical Western, not student of Buddhism, but a meditator and a bit of a retreat junkie. I did lots and lots of retreats when I was young. And that was very fine, you know, but there definitely came a point when I realized that I needed to really take on board the precepts, really, you know, take them very seriously and work with virtue, work with that, develop that for my own happiness and well-being. There can be a quality of ungroundedness if we just put meditation first. So it's not knocking meditation in any way. It's just that if we want to have a sustainable practice, we really want to shore ourselves up to kind of give ourselves all the advantages of living a wholesome life, having a clear, uncluttered, and a mind that's free of remorse as much as possible. And then we can focus much more easily. And the Buddha taught, you know, in terms of right mindfulness, which is really what we can develop through our meditation practice and then apply to everyday life. He taught the 4 resorts, the 4 pastures, the 4 fields where the mind can actually rest, the things that we can be aware of. And there's only 4. And it's really interesting, actually, just to recognize that, yeah, this is the places where we can apply attention and cultivate mindfulness with right effort, with right stillness, also bringing concentration. And they are, you know, the body, kaya, rupa, the body. So I think this is almost the most important place for us to really pay attention when we meditate, because it's the easiest place for mindfulness to rest, because the body is with us, it's present, and there's feeling also, second result. Body and feeling are always present in this moment. They're honest, they're sincere, there's no kind of deception involved. We just feel what we feel in the body. It's the way it is. And it really helps to settle the mind, to pay attention to the body, particularly the breath. It's something we can follow. We can flow with the breath. We can attend to that, and it can really keep our attention. And as we pay attention to the body and pay attention to the breath, you can almost feel the mind settling, easing, there's space for the mind then to almost relax, come home to the present. So this resort, this field for awareness, let that always be the place that we start. Let the mind always be anchored in the body when we meditate. And there's so much, of course, going on. There's no sort of shortage of things to be observed in the body. In some methods of meditation, there's an encouragement to scan the body, isn't there? To work your way down. You know, start at the top of the head and just scan, just like a scanner, you know, scan all the way down, not missing any part of the body out, and quite methodically going through the whole system, organism, and feeling what you feel. Not bringing in any imagination, but just what's available to us, what can be noticed, inside and outside. And in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha described body awareness in this way of noticing what's internal, noticing what's external, noticing the arising and passing. And he said, having let go of covetousness and grief for the world, this beautiful phrase, abhijja domanassa, covetousness and grief. This is the desire and aversion that are the cause of all our suffering, actually, second noble truth. And when we meditate, we're able to notice them, notice those qualities when they're in the mind, and just let them go. We can really do that, can't we? When we have time and space in our practice, sitting practice. Just see when there's a push or a pull, when there's attraction or aversion, when we're not wanting to be here for whatever reason. And we can let those tendencies go and just keep coming back to the experience of being here. Present moment awareness, body. This is our place. This is our temple, you know. And the more we examine and explore it through our practice, the more we can see, the more we can experience, the more sensitive we become, don't we? The more in touch with our bodies. And then we can see how outside of meditation time, the body awareness can continue. I mean, just notice. Is the body getting tense? Is there a tightening in the belly, the shoulders going up? Am I, you know, kind of holding my face in a certain way? Or am I able to just relax and let go of that tension in different parts of the body? And we can notice we can do that in any situation. So again, you know, the meditation on the mat, on the chair, sitting time is a kind of training that's enabling us to develop the awareness. And I really feel that body awareness is the place to really pay attention. It's the first of these resorts, these satipatthanas, these kind of foundations for mindfulness. And feeling, as I mentioned, of course, is so connected with the body. And the Buddha said there are just 3 kinds of feelings that we can observe. And so it simplifies things again, just to come into the body, feel what we feel, and just notice most feelings that we have, sensations in the body when we're sitting, are neutral. They're neither pleasant nor unpleasant. They're just something's going on. Maybe warmth, cold, tingling, a bit of movement, a bit of wind here and there, twitching. My legs are actually sort of throbbing gently, tingling quite a lot from all the walking. It's quite a pleasant feeling. It's not that pleasant. It's fairly neutral. A lot of what we feel is generally quite neutral. But we can also notice pleasant sensations if they arise, unpleasant sensations, like if we get pain. If we've got pain somewhere, this can actually be a very good object of meditation, you know, to really look at it, to really examine it, to sort of divide it and dissect it and See what's going on at different points in that painful area. You know, it's very interesting how pain then becomes something else. Yes, it can still be very strong, a strong sensation, say in my knee or my hip or my ankle. Strong sensation, but actually many things are going on within that generally. So we can investigate pain, investigate unpleasant feeling, not shy away from it, which is what we would normally do if we're not developing mindfulness, but actually go in there, hone in on it, focus on it and see what's happening. And also we can learn how to work with pain by just paying attention to something else, paying attention to another part of the body. And so in this kind of way of practicing mindfulness of feeling, we can really become quite masterful, you know, quite empowered even, that we're not having to react to the pleasant or the unpleasant or get bored by the neutral and just zone out. We're investigating all feeling quite scientifically, you know, clinically, you know, objectively with this body in mind. And I'm talking at the moment about this body, being with this body objectively, not kind of being a victim of whatever's going on, not being reactive to what's going on, but just to be observing, to be aware of the way it is. And the beauty of these two resorts for mindfulness is that they're always here and now. And as I said, feeling also is not deceptive, it's genuine. So we're coming to something very real, you know, for us, for the mind to rest in the body, in the feelings. The other two resorts of mindfulness are, as you all I'm sure know, chitta, which is the mind itself, the state of mind, you could say. You could even say it's something like the mood or the tone, the quality of the mind at this moment. And the other is Dhamma, which is thinking, the activity of the mind, the tendency to produce, you know, thoughts, concepts. And, you know, if we focus our attention on the first two resorts, body and feeling, then we can actually, from that perspective, from that vantage point, it's like on top of the mountain, then we can look around and we can see what's going on. We can look at the mind from the perspective of body awareness, awareness of feelings. So it's as if we're kind of grounded. We're present now. We're present. We're feeling what we feel. We're here. And then we can see, as we pay attention to the body and the feelings, we can start to see how is the mind now. It reveals itself, basically. It reveals itself to us. And we can notice, you know, is the mind distracted? Is it scattered? You know, am I obsessed with some particular thing, some thought or other, some problem or other, some past history that's just playing on my mind? Does it keep coming up again and again? Or is the mind actually very focused, and is it really very empty, very present with this body, with this breath, with these feelings? You can just see, is the mind peaceful? Is it expansive? Is it contracted? Is there some sort of emotion that's playing out at the moment? Is there grief in the heart? Are there waves of frustration or anger, irritability, whatever, you know, fear, anxiety? And whenever we notice a sense of an emotional affect, something going on here, we can come back again to the body and have a sort of ability to move between mind and body and see how the relationship is. See what's going on in the body as I feel anger. I've thought of something, it's really something that's playing on my mind. I'm annoyed about this or that. I'm frustrated by this or that. I'm afraid for this or that. And what's happening in the body now? How does that feel? And so we can see the connections between emotions and feelings in the body, thoughts and emotions and feelings in the body. And all of this is this kind of understanding that's coming to us, you know. We see how these things interplay. And honestly, it's amazing to me how the more we develop this awareness of what is, the more we can feel the impersonal quality of it all. It's really not like something, none of it really one can say is me or mine, or I can't hold on to any of this. It's a flow that happens. Because the more we meditate, the more we see how things are changing all the time. And I might have come and sat down and been feeling really wound up about something. But inevitably, if I'm paying attention to the body, oh yeah, there's a real feeling of, you know, frustration or some energy moving here, hot or agitated. Let's just see what happens. The more we pay attention, of course, we see how things change. Things are changing all the time. And as the sensations in the body, the feelings in the body are inevitably changing, so the mood, the emotion, the concept in the mind, the issue that we have, we can notice that, oh, it's changing. My perspective's shifting. And quite often, isn't it the case that we can sit and meditate and notice afterwards that whatever was troubling us before seems to have not always resolved completely, but it certainly doesn't feel quite as hot and agitating as it did. And this is a very common experience. Why? Because we're focusing our attention on the simple reality of being here. And whenever we do that, we're making space for change to happen. It's bound to happen. And what tends to be the case is that there's a letting go, because we're getting real. You know, the more we meditate, the more we're living in the moment. We're living now. And it's hard to hold on to anything, honestly, isn't it? When we're really paying attention, there's really no point. There's really nothing that sticks. There's just flow, arising and passing. Even the most painful and seemingly lasting experiences we may have, there's a kind of chipping away at those that happens, like I call them mountain sankharas, the really big ones, like the depression that I've always had. It's me, it's the way I am. Well, is it? We start meditating and we can see how even something like a mountain sankhara, just slowly but surely, actually, it starts to have a quality of like it's wearing away. And so to examine chitta, to examine the state of mind, is something we can quite naturally do. When we focus our attention on the body and the feelings, we will understand, we will notice, you know, mind states arising and passing. And get to know this one, and get to know what's actually not this one, essentially. And then finally, the fourth foundation for mindfulness, this field of thinking. And most people will say, most teachers will say, don't focus on that. Don't focus on thinking. Because if we focus on the thoughts, we'll tend to get caught up in them. And they have that quality of immersing the mind. The mind can get caught up and identify with thinking, and we really can forget all about the body there, forget about the other resorts for mindfulness. So it's a tricky one, but actually, if we are willing to keep directing the attention to the body, to feelings, noticing mind states, we can actually start to notice thinking too, in a way that's a little bit detached or a little bit like separate from the thinking process, can't we? And I'm sure many of you have experienced this. It's almost as if you're watching a movie. There's this movie going on. It's there, you know, and I'm sitting in the cinema, but I don't have to just completely immerse in the movie. No, I can be aware that it's just a series of images that are constantly changing, one after another, one frame after another. And none of it's actually real. It's not real, you know. And that is a good way to think of thinking. It's a good way to consider the thinking process. Because as the Buddha said, you know, our perceptions are like mirages, you know. They're not real. They're very deceptive. They look this way, but they're not actually. They're slightly different than that. Always, always, always good to have a question mark. Whatever we think, the truth, the Buddha said, is always other than that. That's one of my favorite quotes. So it's really great to have a little question mark. Whatever I think about anything at all, probably wrong. At least to some extent. Just opening that possibility is so, so helpful for us. It's so valuable because we're stepping back from the identification with thought. Because the truth is, of course, that these thoughts are also not ours. They're not me. They're not mine. They're very compelling. And we really tend to identify with thinking more than anything else. You know, it's my thought. Otherwise, I wouldn't be having it. It's my view. And of course it's right, because I wouldn't think this if it wasn't right. Question, really? So just keep opening up the possibility that this too is delusory. The Buddha said consciousness, it's like a magician's trick. Consciousness, the whole sense of where all of this comes from for most of us. The one thing I know is that I'm conscious. I am conscious. You know, can we be sure? So consciousness has the extraordinary ability to create the sense of self. And it does that through great effort. It's hard work, constantly composing a sense of self out of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, moments, like the movie, one frame after another. Thinking this one, seeing something over there, hearing something, putting it all together, referring it all back to here and making it mine is a tremendous trick. It's a great illusion. Fabulous, brilliant. But the Buddha said, you have to recognize that this is a trick and the truth is other than that. So all that we think of as coherent and whole is a creation of the mind. You know, it's quite something really. And we don't have to get that. We can take in that the teachings and consider this. But then what we need to do, of course, is apply the teachings and observe ourselves, observe the mind and body, and observe thinking from the perspective of body awareness and awareness of feelings. We get a handle on it then. We can actually watch the movie. We can see that it's a movie and it's composed of many, many, many moments strung together to create something that is to be let go of. Because we need to get up and get out of that cinema at some point if we can. So I hope that makes sense. What I really wanted to point to was the 4 foundations, the 4 resorts of mindfulness. And for us to consider, is there anywhere else that mindfulness can be? Not really. This is what we've got to work with. We've got this body, we've got feelings. Make them our foremost objects of attention, but then we also have the opportunity to see the mind, not be the mind, you know, to see it and to understand it through seeing what, you know, the more we look, the more we see, seeing all the different mind states that are we're capable of experiencing, that can arise and pass in the course of a day, a week, a month, a year. Just see what's the whole repertoire here. What are all these dhammas, these objects, and thinking too, to see how thought has actually its limitations. It's actually not really to be trusted, simply to be observed. And we can then learn from thinking, but not be duped by it, not be convinced by it. Consider the mind to be a trickster, and just to have that freedom to be able to see that I am not that. This is a process. There's causes, and then look at this as the result. This is a result of past causes, conditioning, and so forth. And in this way, we can really start to experience freedom. We don't have to identify with any of these things, but these are the places where we can develop mindfulness. We can develop insight. We can really learn. And you learn about one human being, and you learn about all human beings, and we can look around and we can see, the same suffering everywhere, same causes of suffering everywhere, and the same way out of suffering for all beings. Pretty wonderful. So I shall stop here. A1.
Andamayanda Makataya Sajikaram Dadamase Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu.
So thank you all for your kind attention, and people downstairs as well, thanking them, and all of you online. And I wonder, we have just a few minutes if anyone would like to ask questions. I'm really wondering if what I've said has all made sense this evening. If it hasn't, just ask away, or any comments, reflections that you want to share on this topic. Marilyn. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Marilyn. Marilyn, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Ayya.
Oh, I think you froze.
I was just going to make a comment. So I heard recently someone saying, if you want to see God, open your eyes. And I think that's what you're asking us to do, to be alert and aware when we're bringing this stillness and our practice, and going back if you need to go back, startness that you need when you're meditating. That when you hear those words at first, you think, well, how can I meditate? I have to be alert and aware. But this connection just came to me, that open your eyes and it'll lead you through your practice. And the most challenging part for me, some days, if I feel like I've had a good meditation, is how to carry that meditation with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marilyn. I love that, what you said. If you want to see God, just open your eyes. I really love that. It reminds me of a beautiful quote from the Bible that my ex-mother-in-law sent to me once, and it was, "Be still and know that I am God." And I thought that really touched my heart, because that's meditation. And yeah, to really know the reality. We need to be still. We need to really make that time and space, and we can't do it when we're caught up with all sorts of worldly cares. It's not to make anything wrong, it's just that stopping is necessary. A certain amount of renunciation, to give up all the lovely things that we love to do, and just to be willing to stop, and then be here, be still. And thank you for your comment as well, Marilyn, about how do we carry through? We can have a meditation that's very, we feel we've attained maybe some degree of peacefulness, tranquility maybe, or some insight. and often I think the danger in a way, when we have some good experience in meditation, is that the tendency is for desire to arise in the mind. So it's almost like an invitation, something, I've experienced something good here, some sense of progress or something pleasant has come into the mind through my meditation practice. That's wonderful. But then we have to be very alert, because we just want to watch and catch the hindrance of desire when it almost inevitably arises, because we tend to want to hold on to what's pleasant, and just seeing that. And I think for me, a way to keep the practice going through the day, through our everyday activities, is to do the hindrance spotting, and particularly to notice when we want something or we don't want something. Just to notice that, because it's not that difficult. Because as soon as we want something or we don't want something, we start to suffer. So just noticing there's something not okay in this moment. I'm seeking or I'm pushing away. And I really would encourage everyone to consider that and see whether it's possible to catch that. Because when we do that, it's wonderful. You know, it's like the verses of the sixth Zen patriarch. He said, you know, whenever there's a picking and choosing, a favoring or a finding fault, then we've created heaven and hell right there. So we're the creators of heaven and hell. Heaven and hell don't exist outside of the mind. So it's, you know, to see when we're creating, when we're favoring or rejecting anything, when we're picking and choosing anything. And that movement in the heart of wanting and not wanting is something that we can tune into, and we can start to recognize that. And it's just a way of staying very alert and very mindful in everyday life. So that's just one suggestion. There are so many. Body awareness too, breath awareness, just remembering. Sati means to remember. Remembering to be aware. So to consider that, consider body awareness and bringing it in again and again, and consider the breath, beautiful breath, which is, to me, it's our greatest friend and ally on the path, because this object of meditation is so compelling for us. You know, the more we develop mindfulness of the breath, the easier it gets. And we can always take a mindful breath, have a pause and have a deep breath, and just totally enjoy being aware of that in this moment. So those are some ways, I think, to keep carrying it through and, you know, cultivate mindfulness for sure in every moment. And it's, as my teacher Goenka always used to say, the continuity of practice is the secret of success, he used to say. So let's try and make it as continuous as we can. Yeah, thank you so much, Marilyn. It's actually time to finish, really. Anyone have any last minute question, comment? Otherwise, we can meditate for a short time. Let's meditate for a minute or two before we part. I'll ring the gong at the end if you'd like to. Let's sit quietly together.